You're watching Bill on Bankruptcy. I'm Lee Pacchia. I'm joined now, as always, by Bloomberg News bankruptcy columnist Bill Rochelle. Be sure to go read his daily bankruptcy column, available on BloombergLaw.com, and it's also on the Bloomberg Terminal. Bill, welcome. Happy New Year.
And to you, too.
All right, let's begin the new year by making a prediction for 2013. Is this going to be a good year for bankruptcy professionals and turnaround specialists, or is it going to be more of the same?
Well, I hate to say it, but I'm afraid it's going to be another bad year.
This has been quite the stretch for the profession.
You know, I had my hopes up. I really did. But then Congress, at the last minute, pulls back from the fiscal cliff. And that, I think, friends, was the last great hope we had for countercyclical bankruptcy types to have a booming year starting sometime in 2013. The question is, who is the culprit? Who can we blame? Well, it's none other than the very accommodating bond market. There was a record issuance of about $260 billion of junk debt, actually more than that, in 2012. And what it amounts to, Lee, is if you were a company who can fog a mirror, you can sell debt. The result of that has been that throughout the last, I say, year to 2 years, there is now only $20 billion of debt maturing in 2013, junk debt that is, and that's virtually nothing. And I dare say by the time we're at the end of the year, most of that will somehow have been kicked down the road. So that will not be the subject for a bankruptcy.
Cheap money killing bankruptcy lawyers.
That's right. And as I'm sitting here right now, Lee, the only hope I have for bankruptcy lawyers is some unforeseen event, some catastrophe somewhere, perhaps even just a recession in Europe that might push this country toward recession as well.
Well, grim news, but the courts aren't entirely dead. We have 3 recent cases on the important subject of venue. That's been something we've been talking about a lot over the last year. In 2, the Chapter 11 cases were moved. In 1, however, it wasn't. What did we learn, and what's the takeaway here?
Well, I think it's very simple. If you're in the chicken or prison business, your case gets moved.
Good to know.
That's right. There was a company called Omtron, a chicken producer in North Carolina, tried to file itself in Delaware, and the Delaware judge says, no, you can't, sent the case to Delaware. There was another case called Municipal Corrections, where an involuntary had been filed against this Georgia prison operator in, of all places, Reno, Nevada, I guess a destination that bankruptcy lawyers would like to visit once every 3 weeks. In any event, the Nevada judge sent that case to Georgia, close to home.
Makes sense.
Absolutely does. The third case also was in Delaware, called Carey Limousine. In this case, the business was located in Los Angeles. The mostly affected creditors, other than debt holders, were employees, drivers in particular. The bankruptcy judge kept that case in Delaware. I think really, frankly, Lee, what it amounts to is if you are a small business that nobody cares about, your case gets moved. On the other hand, if you're like Carey Limousine, where your owner is somebody who's pretty important, then the Delaware bankruptcy judges will be a bit more accommodating and retain the case in Delaware.
Most large companies continue, Bill, proposing bonuses for management despite going bankrupt. AMF, the bowling alley operator, is the most recent in this category. Does it look like this plan is going to pass muster?
Well, I wonder. I presume there will be the usual objection from the United States trustee. They seem to react negatively to any and all propositions of bonuses for management. In this case, however, the AMF management will get a bonus equal to about 100% of a year's salary if the company makes its EBITDA projections as required in the bank loan agreement. In some other cases, it's been said that you should not approve bonuses in situations such as this, where management is doing nothing other than what they're required to do in the first place. So let's sit back for a week or two, see who objects, and finally see whether the bankruptcy judge approves the bonuses or not.
You certainly are enamored with Bankruptcy Judge Thomas Bennett in Birmingham, Alabama, because once again, he's the judge of the week. What made you give him another award?
Well, because he once again has written an absolutely masterful opinion. This had to do with whether or not the county could close a municipal hospital that largely served an indigent population. And in the process of writing this masterful opinion, he exploded two common myths about Alabama. Number one, he explained why the county itself is not responsible for its financial problems. He pointed the finger at none other than the Alabama state legislature. And the second thing he did was to set the record straight on whether or not an Alabama county is required to provide medical care for indigent people. And he, as I said, exploded the myth and explained by looking at state law why that simply isn't so. A county is only required to pick up the cost of medical care if a resident of one county is treated in another county. And that's a pretty big deal. The other opinion that I much admired was when he wrote, again, a masterful treatise on Alabama law and whether or not what they call warrants are the equivalent of bonds to justify filing in bankruptcy. He wrote a wonderful opinion saying, yes, they perfectly well qualify. And in this opinion, what he did was to presage another opinion about, I'd say just a few weeks later by the Alabama Supreme Court, who reached the same conclusion. But I got to tell you, Lee, Judge Bennett's opinion made the Supreme Court opinion in Alabama pale by comparison. If ever I can think of any particular judge on a bankruptcy bench who ought to be writing these masterful opinions on a circuit court, it's Thomas Bennett.
All right. Bill, thanks for that. If you'd like to learn more about the cases and issues we just discussed, be sure to go read Bill's column. It's available on BloombergLaw.com, and it's also on the Bloomberg Terminal. You can see more of our videos on YouTube, and you can follow our updates, of course, on Twitter. I'm Lee Pacchia. Thanks for watching, and see you next week.